Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 405 of the All Dolphins podcast. I am joined Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and we're going to figure out what to talk about. First episode since the Monday night win against the Rams, and it's really not like anything has happened since then. I kid. A whole lot to get to, and we're going to dive right into it. Where do we start? I think we have to start with the roster moves. Perk. David Long Jr. goes from team captain starter to benched to now waived. I mean, talk about fall from grace.
I can't explain this. This is very, very bizarre because the team captains are obviously, well, it's not obvious. The team captains are elected by the players, so they had a high opinion of them. And Mike McDaniel spoke highly of David Long after he was named a captain, saying that this shows, what the players think of him and his work ethic and this and that and the other. And and now the guy battles hamstring and knee injuries. As you said, he gets demoted and then he gets released. I just can't understand how he could have looked so bad or been such an anchor. I will say that as we saw him going through practice, and I might have commented to you about this, it looked like he was just kind of dragging that left leg, kind of carrying it. And I don't know if that was the knee injury leg or the hamstring leg, but it didn't look good, but it didn't look as though he couldn't be a key contributor if called upon. But obviously that's what the Dolphins felt. He did play some special teams, didn't do much, and he probably didn't do that much in his NFL career. But the fact that he got released is absolutely stunning and shocking to me.
And to me, it is to a certain degree. But here's the thing, and we're going to be honest about it. David Long Jr. is not good in coverage. Wasn't good in coverage this year,
right?
Like at all. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple of plays that really stood out this year where his ultra aggressiveness in trying to shoot the gap. Oh, I forgot to mention Tua is the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. That takes care of the Tua fans out there. I apologize for not starting with that. Very rude of me. So now let's get back to David Long. Ultra aggressive against the run, but there were a couple of times where he would dive into like the wrong gap, and get himself out of position, and the dude wasn't playing well. And then they put Anthony Walker Jr. in the lineup in place of David Long, and he has played pretty well those first two games. Mm-hmm. And then David Long Jr. is like kind of a little bit of specialty. And then they claimed Tyrel Dodson off waivers from the Seattle Seahawks on Tuesday, another roster move. And, okay, now that gives you a surplus of linebackers. And who's going to go? Duke Riley is a core special teams guy, and he's a decent backup. Channing Tindall he plays on special teams. He could have been a guy who would have been gone, and nobody would have batted an eye. And then there's a possibility, and we might not know this until the next time we ask Mike McDaniel if it's something that he would reveal, that maybe David Long Jr. is like, you know what, I'm not a starter anymore. Let me go somewhere else. That's not impossible also. But the fact that you went from a starter to 0 snaps on defense 2 weeks in a row, and then the Dolphins pick up a linebacker off waivers, kind of set the stage for that a little bit.
Yeah, just the fact that he's a team captain is just, I don't know, was a team captain.
Well, it tells you that we can be pretty sure that it's not a lack of effort issue, because this is a guy, we know that guy balls out. I mean, he is, the effort levels off the chart. So Tyrel Dodson, the two linebacker, if I were to make it, it's interesting with this Seattle and Miami and Dolphins like pipeline we got going. Mm-hmm. And I bring that up also because Jordan Brooks, the other Dolphins starting linebacker, came from the Seahawks in the offseason, and then Jerome Baker went the other way, and then the Dolphins claimed Tyrel Dodson, and then the Seahawks claimed Brandon Peely off waivers, your buddy Brandon, off waivers from the Dolphins as well. Tyrel Dodson, based on my scouting report and the recon I did on him, kind of like a Jerome Baker in terms of playing style. And so one of those, I can tell you, the people in Seattle, when he got waived, were like, whoa, what? They signed him in the offseason as a free agent after he played for the Bills, started all 9 games, was leading the team in tackles, and then boom. And apparently the new head coach, Mike McDaniel, was not happy with the play of his linebackers, including Jerome Baker, who got traded to the Tennessee Titans for Ernest Jones IV. So, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess. The Dolphins obviously like something that they saw in Dotson.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, you said it nicer than me. I was going to say one man's trash is the other man's treasure, but we're going to go with your version, Poop. It's a lot more positive.
That's better. The other new guy on the roster is tight end Jack Stoll.
Yep.
Came from the Eagles. I reached out to my buddy who covers the Eagles and basically told me he's a guy who's like a blue collar type who's going to do what you want. Good blocker, plays a lot of special teams, and he replaces Tanner Connor, who was placed on injured reserve when the Dolphins made the waiver claim for Dotson. And it's kind of sort of the same guy, probably not as accomplished as a receiver, even though Connor hasn't had that many opportunities to do that at the NFL level, but you get an upgrade in run blocking. So,
yep.
Solid move. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily earth-shattering. Oh, the guy started like 10 games last year for the Eagles when they started in 12 personnel, him and Dallas Goedert on the other side. So.
And Poop, we've talked about this before, this experiment of the Dolphins for seeking that athletic tight end, the low round draftee, Tanner Connor, Elijah Higgins. I think I'm leaving one out, but the guys that they get to replace them. Yeah, Stoll and Jonnu Smith, they don't fit that. It's like they're trying for this outlier guy, this low risk outlier, athletic, former wide receiver tight end. But if you don't find them, you kind of go with the more conventional guy, the Jonnu, the Durham Smythe, the Julian Hill. I just find it interesting that they keep trying for this Tanner Connor, Elijah Higgins tight end, and they're not going to give up on it, I guess.
Yeah, but Stoll's kind of different, though. He's more pure tight end. Like Nebraska rookie free agent coming into the NFL.
Right. They utilize the conventional tight end, but they keep trying to get the Elijah Higgins, Tanner Connor type athletic phenom. But I don't know. I don't guess they're going to give up on trying to get that guy. But in the meantime, you utilize the more conventional tight end.
Yeah, and if you notice, more games than not, it's Julian Hill who gets the most snaps because he's a good blocker. And then Jonnu Smith has kind of given him what was been lacking in the offense the past couple of years. At least he's a factor in the passing game, which is something that hadn't happened. And that 33-yard catch on Monday night against the Rams, I don't know which Dolphin tight end of the past, maybe since Charles Clay makes that play.
Yep.
Next topic, I guess we're going to jump straight to, because it's viral and we live in a viral society, Deshon Elliott. Man. So for those not familiar, he was on a podcast with Marlon Humphrey, who incidentally has a Dolphin connection because son of former Dolphins running back Bobby Humphrey. Called a Punchline. Didn't know that, did you? Punchline Pod. And I don't remember exactly how it came, but I think it was about facing the Ravens, because now Deshon Elliott's with the Steelers. And he was talking about like he's looking forward to it because this is really the first time he's facing them, because last year he was playing on a team that was soft as F. And then he's like, he caught himself, and he goes, oh, no, I can't say that. And then I thought he regretted what he was going to say. Then he just switched to, no, that was really soft.
Yeah.
It was just the F part that he regretted in the moment, which was kind of funny. And then he backtracked saying not everybody was soft, but a lot of players were soft. And no surprise whatsoever that Mike McDaniel was going to be like, I'm worried about the 2024 Dolphins.
Right.
Although he did say that was on a podcast. Cool podcast. Which was a cool line. Tua had a good answer. I had no problem with Tua's answer. Like, free country's entitled to believe what he wants, whatever. And then some of the defensive players, I know Javon Holland was like, okay, you want to say that? How about you name some names? My take on this is, like Tua, if that's what he believes, it's like, and it's not, is it so outrageous to say the Dolphins were a bit soft? It's just not good form for a player who's still in the league. Right. That to me is there's like some sort of an etiquette there. unwritten rule that you don't trash guys that you played with who you may wind up playing with in the future.
Yep. And you might need a job in the future, and these coaches tend to go to other teams, right? And that stuff can kind of bite you in the butt. However, having said that, Deshon Elliott is not the first. He's only the most recent, right? Mm-hmm. Jordan Poyer, Calais Campbell, Vic Fangio. Like, this stuff keeps coming up about the Dolphins. And you remember Vic Fangio's comment was made through his longtime friend Ron Jaworski, the former Eagles quarterback, saying that a lot of those guys are more concerned about being on South Beach and all that. Calais Campbell said when he was looking for a team, he heard around the league that the practices with the Dolphins were a little easier. Yep. He said when he got here, he found out that wasn't true. Jordan Poyer said this team has a tendency to fold when they get punched in the mouth. And now Deshon Elliott is saying they're soft as F. I see a trend here, and it's not a good trend. Right. It's not a good trend for the Dolphins. So you've got to think that with so much smoke, there's got to be some fire there. And this is not what you want in the NFL. I did a story last year quoting Alec Ingold and Christian Wilkins about the toughest guys on the defense. Go figure. One was Deshon Elliott. The other was David Long. And I had a quote from Ingold saying, if you hear a hit, it's either 51 or 21. David Long was 51 last year. He switched to 11 this year. And Deshon Elliott was 21. And I talked about the intensity that those two bring to the defense. And Christian Wilkins said that's a good word for those guys, intense. Now they're both gone. You've got these allegations of them being a soft team, soft defense. It's bad form for Deshon Elliott, definitely, because, you just kind of don't do that. But he's only the most recent. He's not the only one. He's the most recent one.
And by the way, since I'm probably hearing keyboards tapping right now, going, yes. Deshon Elliott, who is Deshon Elliott? He sucked for the Dolphins last year. Yeah, he wasn't great in coverage. However, check with somebody who covers the Steelers. Buddy of mine, I know it's shocking. I have friends who cover different teams. Right. He told me something that was like, whoa, really? Because I asked him because whenever I catch a glimpse of the Steelers, seems to me the dude's playing really well. Mm-hmm. He told me he might be the second best player on the Steelers defense right now behind TJ Watt. I was like, whoa. And that's a good,
ahead of Minka.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a good defense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's simply a matter of the scheme in Pittsburgh is better suited for him. And this is a part where I insert like it was for Minka.
Yes.
Than it was for the Dolphins. But what he did provide for the Dolphins, he was a bit of a thumper in the secondary, which is not necessarily a regular occurrence for this team, whereas the coverage skills lacked a little bit. So there's that. I don't think anything's going to come of it out very much beyond this, but certainly raise some eyebrows. You mentioned Christian Wilkins earlier. Miami Dolphins on SI is the website that I hope you guys check out on a regular basis. Content is free, unlike some others who have a paywall.
And I don't know who you're talking about.
No, I won't name names. Unlike Deshon Elliott, I won't name names. And I wrote the story today about how, like, one of the sad fact, because we're going to be honest about it, it's a bad matchup Sunday at Hard Rock Stadium with the Raiders coming to play the Dolphins. And it was a bad matchup from the start because the Raiders are blocked. Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell's their quarterback. But there was something really cool about it. It was Christian Wilkins comes back to Miami.
Yeah.
And then Christian Wilkins winds up on IR. He's still on IR. They practice. And there's not even a sniff of talk about him returning. In fact, there's a radio host in Las Vegas, JT the Brick, who basically, when there was another media outlet who made a snafu Monday talking like Christian Wilkins was still with the Dolphins, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. And JT the Brick made the point, no, Christian Wilkins doesn't play for the Dolphins anymore. He plays for the Raiders. And not only that, but he's got a season-ending injury. which is the first time I had seen season ending.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, okay. But clearly it's a Jones fracture, which you Google it. I'm not familiar with it, but it's like anywhere from like 8 weeks if you need surgery. No, actually more than that, 4 months if you need surgery. Sometimes it could be 8 weeks. Wilkins, I believe, did have surgery, so he's not playing Sunday, which is a bummer.
It is. I talked to Zach Sealer about Wilkins today, and their salt and pepper thing, and I actually did a Calais Campbell column, just kind of saying
like
that.
us.
Yes, yes. I did a Calais Campbell column saying that Calais has been a very good replacement for Christian Wilkins. He exceeded my expectations, really. But in that, while I was talking to Sealer, he said I'm not going to see Christian on Sunday, and that's a disappointment. And that, right, because all I had seen before was that Wilkins was out for an undetermined amount of time. And so, right, when you say that the Brick said that, and then with Sealer's comments, so yeah, it's disappointing that we won't see Christian Wilkins out there. Like everybody else, I was looking forward to that, and I like Christian, and just wanted to see what he could do out there, and what the emotions would be like for him on that field and everything like that. But that's the NFL. Dude, the dudes are here one day like Austin Jackson and David Long, and then the next day that they're gone. It's a bizarre league from that standpoint.
Yeah, because right now, again, it's without the appeal of the Christian return to Hard Rock Stadium. I'm saying it's a good matchup for the Dolphins because logically they should win and win comfortably. And the other bit of news from the Raiders camp, well, not that Wilkins was news because that's been ongoing. This was his first week, by the way, he was eligible to return.
Yes.
He's missed his 4 games, but again, not happening.
Antonio, I will say this.
Go ahead.
I'll say this about this game. If you promise not to scoop me on this, I probably shouldn't even say it. I know. It is the Eichenberg versus Eichenberg game.
That's right.
I talked to Liam today. His brother Tommy, who went to Ohio State, I believe, was a 5th round pick of the Raiders linebacker. They could be facing each other on the field, but Tommy probably won't play from scrimmage. But Liam said that they have like 70 people who are going to attend the game. About 50 of them are family members. They're residing in Hollywood, and they're going to take a bus to the game. Nice. And he had told me before, because when the schedule came out, I asked him about it. He said he bought the grandparents got the Raiders, Dolphins, half Raiders, half Dolphins Eichenberg shirts. So that is, there's no Christian Wilkins, but there is Eichenberg versus Eichenberg. And I was telling Liam, I was like, dude, do you realize your family eats at the top of the athletic food chain? That not only did you have one kid at Notre Dame and one kid at Ohio State, but you're both in the NFL. And he was like, yeah, people ask my dad about that all the time. But we do get Eichenberg versus Eichenberg. So I don't know if that soothes the Christian Wilkins absence, but that is fact.
Okay, go ahead and do a little bit of a monologue while I write an Eichenberg versus Eichenberg story. I kid. No,
and Liam is playing pretty well. Improved. I'll say that he's improved. He's not in it for the Pro Bowl, but he's doing his job. We'll say that.
Okay, at times. Speaking of the guard position, how's that for a segue? Because Liam Eichenberg's a guard.
Yes.
There's another guard in the news for the Dolphins. We told you there was a lot of stuff to get to. Isaiah Wynn back at practice.
Yep.
Man, been a long time. Now we're talking 13 months since his last practice, which was October 2023. He was listed on the injury report with quad/knee. So I think Mike McDaniel had told us that there were other issues that arose during his recovery from the quad injury. But, that's a long time. I would certainly caution against expecting him to return quickly like this. He hasn't practiced in 13 months. I'm going to guess at the very least it's going to be next week, maybe against the Patriots. If not the following week, which would be the Thanksgiving night game against the Packers. But at least the fact that he's been designated for return and he practiced, so obviously is very encouraging.
Yes. Technical point, the Dolphins did not practice today. They just had a
walkthrough. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but he's back. The 21-day window has opened. And it's going to be interesting with Wynn and Bradley Chubb, I mean, we're getting to the point where neither of them had training camp. You got to kind of ramp up to contact. There's only 8 weeks left. And yeah, we're getting to the point where you're wondering, how much are you going to get out of either of those guys? But, you do keep looking for encouraging signs. And for both of them, I think just taking the field this year would make them feel a lot better about the rehab that they did and everything like that, even if it's just for 2 games. So you still keep your fingers crossed for both of them. But as far as win, it is encouraging that his window is open. I checked in with Rob Jones today and just kind of dapped him up. I said, "How's the knee?" He said, "I'm straight." So there you go. Rob Jones is fine. No worries. He said, "I'm straight."
Okay, that cleared that up.
That's what I thought.
Mike McDaniel, however, said he was the day before,
Right.
and in the estimation of the injury report, Robert Jones was listed as a DNP.
Yes.
This did not practice.
Correct.
Since you brought up Bradley Chubb, Mike McDaniel said before practice,
Yep.
not yet this week for Bradley Chubb or Cameron Good. And he said of the two, Good probably would be coming back earlier than Chubb. And then the other issue with Chubb is he's got a contract that I hate to be that guy, but that's very cuttable in the offseason.
Yep.
Which could save a lot of money on the salary cap, and the Dolphins are going to have some work to do to get under. And by the way, I know where some people are going to be like, well, they had the same issue this year and they got it done. Yeah, they got it done. They also had to move on from certain players that they perhaps would not have moved on from.
Right. Let me bring up one quick thing since we're talking injuries, and this is just a for the record thing. Tyreek did not speak today, but he was in the locker room. I went up to him and he was at his locker. And I said, "Can I ask you something?" He said, "What?" I said, "So you had the right thumb injury in training camp, and now this is a left wrist." He said, "Yeah, that's right." I was like, "Okay." I didn't ask the specifics of the left wrist injury because I didn't want to push my luck. He was nice enough to answer the question, but he has had 2 hand injuries this year for what it's worth.
No, correct. By the way, and speaking of Tyreek, and again, this is exhibit 312 of why don't always believe what he says. Do you remember on Monday night when he joked about Odell Beckham and their little wrestling celebration?
Yep.
And he goes, "Oh man, he did it too hard. He hurt my back. And I'm probably going to have to miss practice Wednesday because of that." Well, it was a walkthrough. He was a DNP, and it didn't say anything about back on the injury report. It said knee. Yeah. So no, he didn't hurt his back. It was a funny trolling comment, which Tyreek has been known to throw out there once in a while.
Right.
Yeah. But no surprise on the injury report. The other guy who would have been projected not to practice is Kendall Fuller, who's dealing with a concussion, second one in 7 weeks. Mike McDaniel kind of already said he's out for Sunday against the Raiders. I'm sure they're going to be monitoring him very closely over the next couple of days. And this is one of those they're going to err on the side of caution. And if you were to tell me he's going to land on injured reserve, I would not be shocked.
No, me neither. And Poop, this is the time of year where you get into the depth because all these injuries happen. I always trust the Dolphins' depth. Well, I've trusted it under Mike McDaniel, and I'll say this again. I think that their depth has gotten them to the playoffs. We know all the injuries that they've had with Jalen Phillips and Chubb, and Tua is not a good example because the backup quarterbacks haven't done well. Teron Armstead, and they made it to the playoffs. To me, the big problem in the big games and in the playoffs is you need your big guys, Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Raheem. You need them to play well, and you look at the numbers, and that doesn't happen. But I do think that the backups will be sufficient, whether it's if Rob Jones has to miss time or whoever, anybody has to miss time. And I bring this up in the cornerback context with Kendall Fuller. We'll see what Storm Duck can do as far as getting back into action. We'll see what Cam Smith can do as far as playing more snaps with Kendall Fuller out. But I do I do believe the Dolphins' depth is good enough to carry them to wherever they need to go. The depth is not going to win you the Green Bay game, the Houston game, or the San Francisco game. That's where your superstars have to step up. but your depth can win you the Raiders. It can win you the Patriots. It can win you 2 games against the Jets. It can win you Cleveland. I think the depth at cornerback, at right tackle, at left guard, if necessary, in all these positions, it will be good enough against these weaker teams on the schedule.
And this is where I would say, under the hypothetical that Fuller is out an extended period of time, which, again, 2 concussions in 7 weeks. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or party poupar, but
I like that.
Thank you. We cannot dismiss the possibility that it could be long-term as
right.
in IR done for the year. I don't think we can dismiss that possibility. If that were the case, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with going through the second half of the season with Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, Storm Duck, Saran Neal as your cornerbacks besides Jalen Ramsey and Cater in the slot. And Cater, by the way, hat tip, the dude's having a very, very good season.
He is.
But I like him in the slot a lot more than I like him outside. And I don't know that it'd be crazy to have him outside and then to compensate with playing 3 safeties with Poyer, May, and Holland.
Yep.
So I think this, and then the other question would be, if under that hypothetical, if you're the Dolphins, do you pick up the phone and dial X?
I know. By the way, what the hell is he doing turning down Cincinnati? I don't know what the money was. But it's just mind-boggling, isn't it? I mean, X, just get out there and play. I don't know. I just thought that was bizarre.
Yeah, and he would have been reunited with Lou Anarumo, his DB coach for his first 2 years, so there was a connection. You're going on a pretty good team that has the ability, certainly the talent, to make a run in the second half, even though they're 4-6, unlike some other teams. And the Dolphins are in that category of teams that can make a run in the second half. And then, speaking of that, because again, yes, I'm not listening to anybody who's going to criticize us for providing hopium or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It's realistic that the Dolphins can make a run for a playoff push. We're not saying it's going to happen, but it's certainly realistic.
Yep.
And there are 4 teams to me that will be in the mix for that 7th spot, assuming the top 6 are kind of set. That's Denver, Cincy, Indy, and the Dolphins.
Yes.
And Indy made some news today. They're going back to Anthony Richardson. And I threw out on Twitter, hear me out. Mm-hmm. He wasn't playing well. He had the issue where he came out for 1 game. The 2 games he didn't start were against Minnesota and Buffalo. I spitballed or spatball, whatever the term is. Is it possible that the Colts coaching staff decided, let him sit those 2 games, which we very well may lose anyway? That's going to give him all sorts of issues. You're talking about 2 defensive coaches, Brian Flores, Sean McDermott, who can mess with his mind. We're going to lose more of his confidence. Let Flacco handle those 2 games, and then we'll go back when now he's playing the Jets, who have not been good on defense. I'm not saying – and the Colts schedule, by the way, down the stretch, based on current records, is the easiest in the NFL. The Dolphins have the 30th in terms of difficulties. They have the 3rd easiest.
Yeah, no, I think you might be onto something, because as you look at all these Poop, my thing kind of to bring the quarterback thing to the Dolphins and their search for a number 2 is, I wonder if it makes more sense nowadays to search for one of those first-round picks who's coming back around, the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, that type of guy, as opposed to drafting somebody from scratch or getting a Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, because these dudes coming back around, Trey Lance, right? Well, I know, but I'm just saying, a former first-round pick who's on his 2nd or 3rd team. It seems to be a lot of that. And as you look for ways, and bringing it back to Anthony Richardson and sitting him, as you look for ways to get the most out of these quarterbacks, when you might be forced to play them in a situation that they aren't prepared for. Caleb Williams, right, in Chicago. Maybe this becomes an effective management tool that we can play this guy, and maybe we can get him some meaningful snaps without damaging his psyche, because there's so many of these guys drafted in the top half of the 1st round, and they just don't turn out to be anything. And it's like they had something there, but either because the team was in a bad situation or bad coaching or whatever, the player had no chance to develop. I think you see that a lot. Now, there's guys like Josh Rosen who just don't belong in the league, but yeah, I do think that there are the Trey Lance types. I know I'm throwing people under the bus left and right here, but I do think that there are people who, if you catch them on the back end, second or third team, you might have a better chance. Or when you play them, as you're saying with Anthony Richardson, maybe this becomes a tool to kind of, give this guy more life in his young quarterbacking career.
Whatever you do, I do not advocate doing what the Raiders did this year, which was to supplement Aiden O'Connell, who we saw last year when the Raiders played down here, who was like extraordinarily average.
Yeah.
And then they signed Gardner Minshew, who I would have liked for the Dolphins as a backup.
Right.
The Raiders signed him basically. I think initially that's what they thought, but he winds up beating out O'Connell for the starting job, which immediately red flag. And then Minshew didn't play well, got pulled for O'Connell. O'Connell gets hurt. Minshew goes back in. And then Minshew 2 games ago got pulled for Desmond Ridder, who was, let's just say, less than ideal in his starting gig for the Atlanta Falcons last year. But it'll be Gardner Minshew for the Dolphins on Sunday, which is, again, just part of why there's just Max Crosby is it. I mean, Max Crosby is the one guy you look at the Raiders and it's like, yeah, he's a dude who could hurt you. Outside of that, oh, I'm sorry, they have 2 good tight ends. Sorry, Brock Bowers is a hell of a rookie tight end.
Yes.
Their other tight end, who was a recent 3rd or 4th round pick, I want to say, is back.
Yep.
He left the team because of a personal issue, was designated to return this week, and it was a personal issue, so it's not like he's got a – and they had their bye week last week, so he'll play. So the 2 tight ends, I would expect a heavy dose of tight end passes from Minshew on Sunday. Another quarterback is named Tua Tagovailoa. Did I mention, by the way, he's the best quarterback in the NFL? Okay. I'm clear on that so I don't offend anybody.
Yes.
Did not like his comment today. I'm sorry. Did not like it at all. I do the same thing all over again. Dude, what are you doing? What's with the massive need to overprove the toughness aspect of it and the competitiveness aspect of it? It's just not smart. And beyond that, can we stop holding the ball in the pocket? And then I'm going to respond. This is not a different medium, but on social media, I had somebody say, well, that's who he's always been in his career. Really? Was he really like that last year? Or was he getting rid of the ball very quickly? And then when he was scrambling, was he sliding immediately when there was somebody around him? Because I seem to recall that's what happened last year. And that's why he stayed healthy. It wasn't the jiu-jitsu. It wasn't the extra weight. Is because he was very wise in terms of how he protected himself from taking unnecessary hits, unlike 2022. And unlike what he did Monday night.
Boy, Monday, he was holding that ball way too long, and he didn't. I didn't think Tua had a good game. It was okay.
How dare you?
I know. I'm gonna do it.
Chris
was okay.
Perkins. He's at Chris Perk. Find his work at sunsentinel.com. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, they know it. Believe me. Tuanon knows that. But he does. I think the comment today was probably he probably misspoke, and I think that there's probably a little. Well, I think there's probably a little frustration and a little overcompensation due to the concussions, right? And him thinking, people are going to think I'm soft, or people are going to associate me with concussion, so I would do the same thing. And it's like, yeah, you really wouldn't. And Mike McDaniel said you shouldn't. And we all know that you don't want to tackle anybody by putting your head down near their knee. I mean, that it's so I could almost give Tua a pass on this one, except we've seen salty Tua or peppery Tua since he got back from the concussion, and almost since he signed the contract extension. He's had kind of this attitude, and I don't know why. But look, I like Tua. Yeah, I mean, maybe
He
I
got the
like
money.
Tua,
I mean, I think it's changed him.
yeah, boy, I don't want to say that. I don't want to go down that road. But he's different this year, and the exact reason I can't yet put my finger on it because the publicity has been favorable. I know there's people who said you should retire, but that's a very. By the way, uh, this coach Antonio Pierce, as I think about it, was one of the ones who
That's
said,
right.
"Yes, that's right." How about that?
Oh,
But
very good.
yeah, but I think I think really Tua has been treated very well and very favorably by the media, and I don't know why we've seen salty Tua so much this season, but I think today was kind of part of that personality change that I'm not sure that that's really what Tua meant. I think he was just kind of on the defensive, and he's kind of got this kind of edge and this bravado about him. Look, Tua's a smart guy, and we heard Mike McDaniel again. He shouldn't go for a tackle like that. So for Tua to say I do the same thing, I think is kind of bravado on his part and not common sense.
Yeah, but it goes to me to the whole thing where the interview he had with ESPN's Jeff Darlington. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Jeff Darlington. That Jeff Darlington. By the way, for those who may be not familiar with the joke, we know it's the
Animal House.
I know that. I'm kidding. I can't.
Oh,
where he said, "What do you want to be known for?" And he goes, I know what I don't want to be known for is the poster boy for concussion." That has gnawed at him, and this is where I think that was part of it because. And I saw what he said, and it was like, and I like visually saw it. To me, I didn't detect anything other than, I'm not going to play like anything less than the court. But if you're in that position again, what would you do differently? I wouldn't do anything differently. I'll make the tackle. That's what I've got to do. It is what it is. It's hard to score in this league, and this is where I bring up as somebody on social media brought up to me, and somebody told me I should go check tape to see what he's talking about. And I'm like, yeah. And then this is where I point to the beard, like, I'm old enough. I saw it. Dan Marino would throw an interception. He would basically almost sprint to the Dolphin sideline. Like, not my job. I'm not making the tackle. And while maybe the initial reflex to say, Jesus Christ, part of the team competing, all that. What's more important? You make the tackle. And even if you, again, to me, as I wrote, unless the season's on the line, if the worst that happens because you're not going to get involved is a pick six in a game, I think that's better for the Dolphins than Tua getting himself involved and, having something bad happen.
Yep. And to take it to a different extreme, we saw Patrick Mahomes take out his own receiver, Rashee Rice.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of bad stuff that can happen. There's that one good scenario where you make the tackle or you shove the guy out of bounds. I don't think anybody cares. And if I'm not mistaken, Teron Armstead was right there and somebody else had missed the tackle that Tua was trying to make. But I think Armstead was like right there. So Tua just shove him and slow the guy down and then get the hell out of the way. But again, I think that it was, as you say, that I don't want to be the poster child for concussions. Correct. And I think that was more. I think next time that happens, Tua does get the heck out of the way. I really do think that but otherwise, Mike McDaniel should run out onto the field and grab Tua and actually take him out of harm's way because that's what it means to Mike McDaniel's career.
Yeah. And I wrote about that. I did a column on both some friendly advice to Tua, and that was and then to Tyreek Hill also. Like, I get his personality and all that, but does he really need to be doing a wrestling celebration with the suplex or whatever, the dual clotheslines in the end zone, which was very, very cool. The dude's like got injuries to different parts of his body. Why are you even chancing it?
I don't mind that. I just think when you're 3-6 and your offense is just kind of looked like booty, I don't go out there trying to act like it's 2023 or 2022 and you got this high-scoring offense and now you got Jalen Waddle involved like you did against Jacksonville with the mimicking the arrest or the detainment I should say. You had OBJ in this wrestling thing. I don't know. I said this on the podcast, and people were like, "Yeah, Perk, and just tell him to get off your lawn." Also, okay. I'm sorry, I'm the old dude, but I just thought it looked ridiculous. I still like the Jalen Waddle answer when I asked him a few weeks ago when are the touchdown Sally's coming back, and he goes, "Shoot, when we start winning." I like that. I like that attitude and that answer.
No, I like that too. And if you want to do a touchdown Sally now, even with the record, that's fine. Just don't do anything where you're throwing yourself to the ground. Like, I'll give you another one. Was it James Cook, I think, maybe of the Bills? He sprints around the corner, gets to the end zone, and then he does like a forward roll into the end zone.
Right.
Why? Like you take a misstep or something, and it's like, why? It's like it. And for those of like, don't be so like such a wuss and all that stuff that would never happen. No, think of how many guys tore an ACL jumping up and down in the end zone. That's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And then again, it's just there's no reason. To me, I'm old school. I know, shocker, right? I like Barry Sanders score a touchdown, hand the football to the refs, and go about your business. That's okay too. Why is that so bad? But I'm willing again. I'm willing to go with something creative and all that. The throwing around the flying bodies all over the place. To me, it makes zero sense.
Yeah. I'm kind of more old school. I'm kind of more of a White Shoes Johnson, Billy White Shoes
there you
Johnson,
go.
or even a Mark Gastineau sack dance. But yeah, all the bowling pins and all the throwing your body around. I know. I'm going to be shouting at clouds tomorrow morning, telling kids to get off my lawn. I'll accept that.
Or who was it? Somebody did the Australian. What's it called? The Australian breakdancer routine from the Olympics.
I missed that.
Yeah, somebody made that. That was funny.
That's great.
That's creative. I love those.
That's great.
Like the roller coaster last year was completely a lot of fun. But again, we're going to wrap this up. But last note here, because we're thorough here. Another roster move. The Dolphins brought back Aiden Rucci to the practice squad.
Yes.
This was before they claimed Jack Stoll off waivers, so I'm sure Aiden Rucci was like, "Oh, cool! I get back to sign back with the Dolphin practice squad. Maybe I'm just that close to being elevated and being able to play." And then they claim Jack Stoll off waivers. Anyway, Aiden Rucci is a guy they liked in the training camp. Another good blocker, rookie free agent from Wisconsin. So he is back on the practice squad. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. We were pretty thorough there.
There's a lot of stuff to cover here.
Yes.
Last one. Jakeem Grant back in the NFL, signed with the Atlanta Falcons practice squad.
Nice.
Love that. Dude had a really rough go of it.
Yep. Yes.
So, good to see that. Okay, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks, as always, to my man Perk. Perk, find his work at sunsentinel.com, at Chris Perk. Catch my work, my written content. It's a lot better than what I say. Trust me. Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We will be back here tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks, everyone.